I know very few Black people who said they'll get the coronavirus vaccine when it becomes available. As a public health professional, that definitely concerns me, but as a Black person, I get where the hesitation comes from. A survey by the Undefeated and Kaiser Family Foundation found that half of Black adults are not planning to take a coronavirus vaccine. And one of the major reasons for that is a lot of Black people lack trust in the healthcare system. And these feelings of mistrust are valid, and they are a result of a long history of medical malpractice and unethical treatment that Black people have received at the hands of doctors and researchers, and the ongoing racism that we experience today in our healthcare system. A prime example of this is the Tuskegee syphilis study, and I hear Black people bring this up all the time, especially when we start talking about the coronavirus vaccine and the research to develop that vaccine. So I think it's worth it for us to revisit the details of what happened in the Tuskegee syphilis study and talk about it, because I don't think we as a community always get those details right. And there's just more to the story. And some of those details that aren't often talked about have positive implications for all people in regards to medical research. And the whole story of the Tuskegee study, to me, it really honestly demonstrates Black people's resilience and our ability to exact justice for wrongs that were committed against us.
Well, that's a loaded question. There's many reasons why Black people don't want to get the COVID vaccine. Historically, Black people have been the victims of medical experimentation. The administration has caused nothing but chaos and confusion around any and all things COVID. Then you toss in a few conspiracy theories floating around on the internet, all rolled into one, and you kind of have the reason why a lot of Black people are not interested in the vaccine.
Well, here's a tweet. Someone said, "I believe in science, but I'm skeptical of the COVID vaccine because of two simple words, Tuskegee Airmen."
So there was a tweet that said, "It's finna be Tuskegee experiment part 2.
Well, one tweet says, "They about to Tuskegee experiment the fuck out of folks with that COVID vaccine. I'm good."
I got an email from the VA hospital I go to stating that they're looking for Black, Hispanic, and Native American veterans as primary volunteers for the vaccine trial. It's giving Tuskegee vibes.
It's like the only two things most people know about the city of Tuskegee is the syphilis study in Rez Hills. And this brings me to my next point. There are some pretty prevalent misconceptions about what actually happened in the Tuskegee study.
The Tuskegee syphilis study, known officially as the Tuskegee study of untreated syphilis in the Negro male, was an infamous study conducted by the U.S. Public Health Service between 1932 and 1972. It aimed to identify the effects of untreated syphilis in about 400 African American sharecroppers in Alabama at a time when there was no known treatment for syphilis. Seems harmless, right? Wrong. Although participants were told they received treatment, researchers only gave participants placebos such as aspirin and mineral supplements, despite the fact that penicillin became the recommended treatment for syphilis in 1947. Sadly, many men died, went blind or insane, and suffered from other complications due to untreated syphilis by the end of the study. The Tuskegee syphilis study is one of the most horrific examples of unethical treatment of Black people in research, and unfortunately, it is not the only one. However, since the wrongdoing of the Tuskegee syphilis study was exposed, there were changes made to research practices to prevent something like that from happening ever again.
Black scientists have been working for decades to address racism in scientific research. For example, Dr. Bill Jenkins, a Black epidemiologist at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, was one of the whistleblowers of the unethical treatment of participants in the Tuskegee syphilis trial. After the study ended, Dr. Jenkins oversaw the participants' health benefits program, which provides free lifetime medical care to the men of the Tuskegee study and their family members. Dr. Jenkins spent the rest of his career trying to reduce disease and illness among Black Americans and other people of color, in part by recruiting more Black people into the public health profession.
In the early 70s, after the news came out about the Tuskegee syphilis study and there was public backlash, the National Research Act was passed. The National Research Act mandated that all research involving human subjects has to be reviewed and approved by an Institutional Review Board, or IRB. IRBs are an independent group of people with both scientific and non-scientific expertise who review research proposals and look for any ethical or safety issues in the study design. The IRB also makes sure that research participants give informed consent, which means they fully understand all aspects of the research, how it will be done, and the true goals of the study, and with that knowledge, they agree to participate. The IRB assesses the risks, benefits, and ethical implications of research for individuals and society. All research involving people has to be reviewed by an IRB, and the IRB has the power to approve or not approve studies before they begin, and then monitors approved studies to ensure ongoing compliance.
One thing that happened as a result of the Tuskegee study was the establishment of the National Commission for the Protection of Human Subjects of Biomedical and Behavioral Research. This group established guidelines and principles to assure ethical research in the 1979 Belmont Report. These three principles are respect for persons, beneficence, and justice. Respect for persons requires an informed consent. Basically, this means that researchers must provide you with enough information and receive your permission to include you in the study. There are even special protections for vulnerable groups like children and prisoners. Then there is beneficence, which ensures that researchers develop proposals that minimize the risk to participants and maximize the benefits to participants and societies. Ultimately, research should do no unnecessary harm and provide the maximum good for the world. Finally, there's justice. Justice assures that research participant selection does not force one group of people to bear the cost of research while another group of people benefit. We can't have research studies full of low-income people to develop a solution that will only give to rich people. The people in the research studies should get the most benefit. Healthcare organizations need to do a better job of providing equitable treatment to Black people. Discrimination in healthcare settings is a significant contributor to Black distrust in medical research. If we feel safe and respected in our interactions with healthcare organizations, then we can begin to build trust.
Policymakers and other decision makers must center equity and ethics in all decisions related to distribution, allocation, administration, and communication surrounding COVID-19 treatments and vaccines.
I think just improving the relationship between providers and their Black patients will go a long way in mitigating that mistrust that a lot of Black people feel. I think if Black people felt fairly confident that when they received medical care, they would be treated well and with respect, they would be listened to, and they would get the care that they needed, they would be much more likely to participate in medical research and accept new treatments like a vaccine. Healthcare providers really need to do the work to address their own racist beliefs and actions and build on-the-ground relationships with the communities they serve. They could work with influential people within those communities and have those people be like a nexus of accurate information and resources to spread out within their networks, which would hopefully begin to turn the tide in how Black people feel about the healthcare system.